Hi everybody, my name is Scott Walls. For over 25 years, I've deployed ERP applications for some of the world's largest organizations. During that time, I've taught thousands of people just like you how to discover, use, deploy, and support Oracle's back office software. In this lesson, I'm going to show you out-of-the-box or the out-of-the-box reporting options for the negotiations application to include OTBI. So you can also substitute the word sourcing and or compliance deliverables for negotiations. I know sometimes people get a little bit confused. So please note that this lesson is part of the Discover Procurement course. But before we get started, did you know that you could earn free Discovery badges for display on your LinkedIn profile just by watching videos like this one? You can. Stay until the end of this video and I'll show you how. Okay, so let's get started. Key topics for this lesson are as follows. First, what's the seated user that you'll need to log into that has both the role access as well as the data access to see examples within the demo environments? Second, we'll take a look at the user homepage for negotiations. Third, the application homepage. Again, like qualifications, this is a really nicely done, very colorful visual homepage. Fourth, we'll look at the application search page, also called the Manage Negotiations page. We'll look at both the basic and advanced search. And then finally, we'll take a quick jump over to OTBI, which is the Oracle Transaction Business Intelligence Query by Example tool, where pretty basic users that don't have SQL knowledge are able to go in and create reports via the wizard. So before we jump into Fusion, it's just worth noting that the idea here is to learn how to use and or deploy, is to learn what's available, not to learn how to use and or deploy the application or the OTBI wizard, etc. Those are all covered in separate use and deploy videos. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into Fusion. So first, seated user, you can see we're logged in as Calvin Roth. Calvin Roth is a procurement manager, so that works very well from a page or role access standpoint for negotiations. So that's the seated user. Second is the home page. So we're on Calvin's home page, and if we scroll to the bottom, we already see some of the different reporting options that are available. Just scroll down to the end. And so the first one that we see, is under analytics, which you see here, is the user defined. So there's a whole series of infolets that Calvin can enable to see, and they don't just have to be for negotiations. Then, and those can be even beyond procurement, right? Again, it comes back to what does Calvin have access to up here in the functional areas. Then from the source to settle perspective, there's a further subset or another subset of which can be enabled or disabled. Hang on, hopefully. And you can see here, these can be enabled or disabled, and they show up here on his user homepage. And so that's the user homepage and the different analytics or reports available via it. Next up is the application search page. So we'll select a procurement area, and then we want to get into the application to go to the application homepage. And so as I said before, there's a lot of different information or infolets displayed here. So same thing, I can refresh here. I can select or enable, disable infolets. These infolets, very visual, so is completed awards. Sourcing programs. Programs are just a way to aggregate spend objectives across different sourcing events. But very similar with the overview page, you have the ones belonging to you divided by status, things that you may need to take a look at. In this case, you have something called My Performance, and that just means here is the difference between the rec lines and the award lines summarized, up or down. And so that's what these series of tabs will tell you what you've done recently, all of your stuff by status, in this case negotiations, or it may also tell you here's some things that you, Calvin, need to pay attention to. Okay, so we've gone through the seated user page, we've talked who the seated user is, Calvin. We've gone through his homepage. We've gone through this application homepage. Next up, the application search pages, which we also call the manage pages. So look here is, let's say, for example, manage negotiations. And so then that offers two kinds of search out of the box. There's some filter here. You can use those, or if you want to add, you go to the advanced mode. You can add different fields that just help you control the data set you see down here. If you want to then control what attributes get returned for that data set, you can do so here. You could then export that information to Excel, acting like a report. You could also save that as the search you see when it comes in or when you bring this page up, or that you can switch to quickly. So seated user, user homepage, application homepage, then this was the application search page with basic and advanced. And then the last item on our list is OTBI. So OTBI, you can see, you don't always see this here, but there's reports and analytics. So this is nice. It's a way that you can see OTBI data. So if I wanted to look at my folders, things that I have selected, changed, put in that folder, I can do so there. If I want to look at different elements that are shared by the organization, I could do so by selecting here. If I wanted or didn't have access to that, and I wanted to go into OTBI to create a report, I just click my navigator menu, I open the tools section and select reports and analytics. Reports and analytics takes me into OTBI. If I'm a pro, I'll use browse because I'm going to browse the data object catalog and create what I need to. But since if you're watching this, you're probably not a pro, just go ahead and use the wizard, create an analysis, which is just like saying creating a query. And so in this instance, we probably want to look under negotiations, but because I'm in here all the time, they call it sourcing. And so I'm going to scroll down to the S's until I find something that says sourcing. You should get a couple of them. Okay, so here's real-time program, supplier awards, negotiations. So if I want my negotiations, I've just selected my data set. So look, here's the big value here. Is if you don't understand SQL, they give you a bunch of tables, you wouldn't have any idea which tables you're seeing on a page and how to get to the attributes and how to stitch them together by joining tables. Oracle takes all of that complexity out of it and provides it to you as a data object here called subject area. And from there, you can see all kinds of little subdivisions of the subject area. And so you just need to scroll through these different styles, status, whatever. Just double click on something, it will add it here to your page. If I want to know more about my line, I can do here. And looks like these are counts when you see this yellow. This is more of what you'd want in a bar chart, in a number or a count or a dollars or a sum, as opposed to what then says underneath that in the line detail, oftentimes are the different attributes, etc. So just double click, or you can add them this way to add them here, and then run through these different train stops by clicking next, and it will walk you through creating the query, right? So I can call it anything I want. I can choose some table, some graphic. I can click the preview, and it's going to start to show me what some of this data looks like. And so I can then tell you, oh, I want to have it to the left or the right when I look at my graphing, what have you. But it's very simple, very straightforward, and you can produce queries pretty quickly if you're not a technical user. So just by going through the next tier. So let's cancel here. Done there. We'll go back to the home page. So we showed the seated user, Calvin Roth. We showed you Calvin's homepage. Then we showed you the negotiations application homepage. Then after that, we walked through manage negotiations, basic and advanced search. And then we ended with the OTBI, which is a tool to custom create queries, or what they call analysis and reports, for people who don't understand or have the technical skill to write SQL code or set language code. Okay, so again, this really, the out of the box videos to tell you what's available. If you want to learn how to use or deploy it, those are separate videos under those menu options on the FusionX.io homepage. So that's it for this video. Hopefully you found it informative. Thank you for watching. Okay, as promised, here are the 5 steps you can perform today to start earning free badges for your LinkedIn profile. Step 1, navigate to Panameer.com and either sign in or join now. It's free.
Step 2, in the upper left, under the Discover menu, select the course that you want to watch and get badged for. Step 3, watch all of the different video lessons in that course. Step 4, when it's complete, send your LinkedIn profile and the course you watched and your user ID to badges@panameer.com. And then sit back and wait for step 5 when we attach a badge to your LinkedIn profile.